Picture this: August 4th, 1577. A violent storm tears across Suffolk. Inside Holy Trinity Church at Blythburgh, the congregation huddles in prayer. Then the doors burst open. A massive black dog, eyes blazing red, charges down the nave. 2 people die instantly. The church steeple collapses. And on the ancient wooden door, scorch marks remain to this day, marks the locals still call the devil's fingerprints. But here's the question. Was this creature a demonic omen of death, or a misunderstood guardian? Welcome back to Golden Cattle Media, where folklore, history, and legend intertwine. Today, we're diving into one of Britain's most enduring supernatural legends, the spectral black dogs that have haunted the British Isles for nearly a millennium. If you enjoy stories that blur the line between history and myth, consider subscribing. Before Christianity swept across the British Isles, ancient beliefs dominated these lands. Dogs held a sacred place in Celtic and Norse mythology. Guardians of the underworld, companions of the gods, protectors of the boundary between life and death. When Christianity arrived, these pagan beliefs didn't disappear. They transformed. They merged with the new ideas about devils and demons, about death and salvation. And in that cultural collision, the spectral black dog was born. From the windswept moors of Yorkshire to the lonely mountain passes of Wales, from the harbour towns of Suffolk to the misty highlands of Scotland, these creatures became woven into the fabric of British folklore. They appeared in churchyards and on dark roads, in forests and farmers' fields, along docks and down shadowy alleys. But unlike many folklore creatures that remain consistent across regions, the black dog is a contradiction. In some places, it's a death omen, a harbinger of doom. In others, it's a gentle protector, watching over travelers and children. Same creature, opposite meanings. The question is why? Let's start at the beginning. The first documented appearance of spectral black dogs comes from the Peterborough Chronicle, written by monks at Peterborough Abbey in 1127. They describe something that terrified them. Quote, "Many men both saw and heard a great number of huntsmen hunting. The huntsmen were black, huge, and hideous, and rode on black horses and on black he-goats, and their hounds were jet black with eyes like saucers and horrible." Unquote. This is nearly 900 years ago, and already the description is chillingly specific. Black, huge, eyes like saucers. But the most famous black dog incident, the one that cemented the legend in British culture, happened on that August day in 1577 that we opened with. During a massive thunderstorm, a creature the locals would come to call the Black Shuck burst through the doors of the Holy Trinity Church at Blythburgh in Suffolk. Witnesses described it as enormous, with shaggy black fur and blazing red eyes. It tore through the congregation, and when it was over, a man and boy lay dead. Here's where it gets even stranger. The same day, the same creature allegedly appeared at a church in nearby Bungay, several miles away, killing 2 more people. The contemporary writer named Abraham Fleming documented the event, describing how the beast ran, quote, "all along down the body of the church with great swiftness," unquote, and, quote, "wrung the necks," unquote, of those kneeling in prayer. The scorch marks on Blythburgh's church door, you can still see them today, over 400 years later. The term Black Shuck itself didn't appear in print until 1850, when it showed up in the journal Notes and Queries. But the stories, they predated that publication by centuries. Black Shuck is perhaps the most famous, but England's black dog lore runs deep. In Yorkshire, they call it Barghest. The superstition says that if the Barghest lies across your doorstep, someone in your house will die soon. In Leeds, the creature is known as Padfoot. The local belief warns you should never speak to it or attack it. Doing so puts you under its power. But here's where things get interesting. In Lincolnshire, folklorist Ethel Rudkin found something different. The black dogs weren't feared. They were beloved, seen as gentle protectors. In Somerset, mothers allowed their children to play unsupervised on Quantock Hills because they believed the Gert dog, their local black dog, would keep them safe. Same creature, but completely different interpretation. But England isn't the only place where these spectral hounds roam. Cross into Wales and you'll hear stories of the Gwilgi, literally dog of darkness in Welsh. This creature embodies the contradiction perfectly. The Welsh consider it both a harbinger of death and a protector. It haunts the Nant Agarth Pass and other lonely mountain roads. The Gwilgi appears much like its English cousins, massive with thick black fur, glowing red eyes, and sharp white teeth. Some accounts describe it as large as a calf, others say it's the size of a horse. Travel north into Scotland, though, and the black dog takes on an even more unusual form. The Cushy isn't black at all. It's green, covered in shaggy moss-like fur, the color of magic and the fae. The Scots believe it to be roughly the size of a calf, with the same glowing red eyes, but a far more terrifying characteristic: its bark. The Coochie could hunt silently, but occasionally it would let out 3 barks that could be heard for miles, even far out at sea. And here's the terrifying part: those who heard the barking had to reach safety by the 3rd bark, or they would die from sheer terror. The creature was particularly dangerous to nursing women. When its howls were heard, the women would be locked away inside immediately. Why? Because the Scots believed that the Coochie would abduct nursing mothers to force them to feed fairy children in the otherworld. But not all spectral black dogs were omens of death. Some were guardians, protectors known as churchgrims. According to folklore, when a new churchyard was consecrated, the first soul buried there would have to guard the cemetery for eternity. To spare a human soul from this fate, people would bury a black dog in the north corner of the churchyard first. That dog's spirit would become the churchgrim, a benevolent guardian protecting the dead and warning of danger. Churchgrims were spotted ringing bells before deaths, walking the grounds at night, and protecting graves from grave robbers and dark magic. They weren't demonic, they were holy dogs doing their eternal duty. So what actually happened at Blythburgh in 1577? Historical records confirm a violent thunderstorm struck Suffolk that day. Church records confirm deaths at both Blythburgh and Bungay. The damage to the church, including the collapsed steeple, is documented fact. But was there really a demonic black dog? Some historians believe ball lightning, a rare and poorly understood weather phenomenon, could have explained the sightings. Ball lightning can appear as glowing orbs that move erratically and can cause burns, fire, and structural damage. To terrified medieval villagers in the midst of a violent thunderstorm, such a phenomenon might easily explain the hellish beast. Others point to the social climate. 1577 was the height of religious turmoil in England. Fear of the devil, witchcraft paranoia, and sectarian violence were everyday realities. In this context, unusual events were often given supernatural explanations that reinforced moral and religious teachings. But here's what's harder to explain. Why did similar black dog sightings occur across centuries, across different regions, with remarkably consistent descriptions? Thick black fur, glowing red eyes, enormous size, appearance at crossroads, churchyards, and execution sites. Was there something real at the core of these legends, or were these stories cultural constructs, ways for the communities to process death, danger, and the unknown? One of the most chilling black dog stories comes from Newgate Prison in London. During the reign of Henry III, a terrible famine struck. A scholar accused of sorcery was imprisoned at Newgate. The famine became so severe that this poor man was murdered and cannibalized by other prisoners. Not long after, other inmates reported seeing a spectral black dog prowling the prison. One by one, the men who had murdered the scholar were found dead. For over 400 years after, it was said that the black dog would appear before executions at Newgate, a grim reminder of justice and retribution. The legend became so ingrained in British culture that it influenced some of the greatest writers in English language. Charlotte Bronte included the Gytrash in Jane Eyre, a ghost that would appear as either a black dog or a horse. She drew this from stories her maid told her, showing how folklore was transmitted through oral tradition even in Victorian times. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was inspired by the black dog legends when he wrote The Hound of the Baskervilles, perhaps his most famous Sherlock Holmes story ever written. And J.K. Rowling used the Grimm in Harry Potter as an omen of death, drawing directly from British black dog folklore, even naming Sirius Black's animagus form Padfoot after the Leeds black dog. But these stories refuse to die because they touch something primal: the fear of darkness, the mystery of death, the hope that something watches over us in the night. Even today, people report black dog sightings across the British Isles, on lonely roads, in ancient churchyards, across coastal paths where smugglers once walked. Some paranormal investigators suggest these sightings might be residual hauntings, psychic recordings of traumatic events playing on a loop. Others believe they're guardian spirits that never left their posts. Psychologists offer a different explanation. The black dog might be a cultural archetype, a symbol our minds create when processing fear, grief, or the unknown. The fact that Winston Churchill famously used the black dog as a metaphor for his depression shows how deeply this image is embedded in the British psyche. So what are these creatures? Death omens or protectors? Demons or guardians? Perhaps the answer is they're both and neither. The spectral dog isn't just one thing because it was never meant to be. It's a mirror, reflecting the fears, hopes, and beliefs of people who encountered it. In places where life was harsh and death was common, it became an omen. In places where travelers needed protection, it became a guardian. The churchgram shows us something fascinating. The same creature, recontextualized through Christian belief, transformed from a pagan guardian of the dead to a holy protector. The story adapted to survive. Maybe that's the real power of folklore. It doesn't just tell us about the past, it shows us how humans have always tried to make sense of death, darkness, and the unknown. And in doing so, we've created guardians, even when we were afraid. So what do you think? Are spectral dogs demonic omens, protective spirits, or simply misunderstood natural phenomena filtered through centuries of folklore? Have you ever encountered something you couldn't explain on a dark road or in an old churchyard? Let me know your thoughts and your stories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey through British folklore and history, please like this video and subscribe for more stories where legend and reality intertwine. Until next time, some stories refuse to stay buried, and some guardians never leave their posts.